Gain Therapeutics is a biotechnology company leading in the discovery and development of the next generation of allosteric therapies. Gain's lead drug candidate, GT2287, is being developed for treatment of Parkinson's disease when clinical evaluations are set to begin later this year. They're also leveraging AI and supercomputer-based models for drug discovery. And with me is Matthias Alder, the CEO, to talk more about this. So great to have you here. Let's
Thanks
talk
for having me, Jen.
allosteric medicine and modulation. What is that, and why is Gain following that model?
Thank you, Jen, for having me. I really appreciate the time here and happy to talk to you about Gain. So Allosteric Gain is at its core a computational drug discovery company focused on this new emerging targeting approach, which is called allosteric modulation. By way of background, so normally we're targeting proteins, and proteins are normally activated through natural chemicals in the body at what it's called the active binding site. And what we're doing with our platform is we're finding new, different binding sites for activating or inhibiting proteins that are anywhere else on the protein surface. That with that approach, we're able to either activate or inhibit a particular protein from acting. So it's a different targeting approach that previously has not been possible to be pursued because the technology didn't exist.
Interesting. So, and you recently reported some new findings with the GT2287, the development for Parkinson's disease. Yeah. What is the mechanism of action? What were the findings you reported?
So GT2287 is an allosteric modulator of a protein called GCase. And GCase is a protein that is expressed by a gene called the GBA1 gene. And we're focusing on, in Parkinson's, on patients that have a mutation of that GBA1 gene that causes the expression of a misfolded and dysfunctional GCase protein. And because it is dysfunctional, that protein can't do its job, and there's a buildup of toxic materials in the cell that ultimately lead to the death of dopamine-producing cells, a drop of dopamine levels in the brains of patients, and ultimately, as a result, then the development of Parkinson's disease. And so what the data that we have shown is confirming what we have seen before in other preclinical models. We've shown new data now at the Parkinson's conference in Copenhagen just earlier this week. And what we have shown there is that we are in two different animal models, industry standard animal models, we have been able to restore the function of GCase, reduce all of the toxic materials that are building up. We've shown that we are improving the survival of dopaminergic neurons. Dopamine levels in the brains of these animals are going up, and their locomotion deficits improve because we are essentially protecting those dopaminergic neurons from dying off.
Oh, very interesting. And there's also a lot of news surrounding NFL for neurodegenerative disease as a use as a biomarker. So explain that, and how are you leveraging that use?
And that's actually the bit of new data that we've been able to show that we haven't previously shown because we just haven't looked at it. NFL is a protein that is component of brain cells generally. And if brain cells die, that protein is released, gets in the brain cells, break up, and the protein is released and moves into and can then be seen in the bloodstream. And so as a result, NFL is if you have any kind of neurodegenerative disease where brain cells die, you will see NFL in the blood. And that's for the first time we actually looked at that. It's an emerging biomarker, was sort of recently became more prominent. And it is the ability to show that what we've been able to show with our drug is that we are actually significantly reducing the levels of NFL in the bloods of these animals, which means that we're essentially preventing that neurodegenerative process that ultimately leads to Parkinson's disease.
Oh, wow. Really interesting and potentially very significant as well. So what is in the works for Gain Therapeutics going forward?
So we are actually at a very exciting time for Gain. We are about to start the first clinical study with our lead product, the GT2287. It's a big transition for a company from moving from preclinical stage to clinical stage, and we're really looking forward to testing this drug and advancing that ultimately into patients later.
And that's expected to come later this year?
Yes, so the phase 1 clinical study starting imminently later this year. We'll come out with an announcement when that happens.
Look forward to that announcement and an update as you get those trials underway. Thank you so much, Matthias.
Thank you for having me.